Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's DA.
Welcome to a very special edition of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody, because it's bells and sirens time. Number 100. We're keeping it 100 here on the PGP. This is the 100th episode of our weekly installment of the show within the show behind the show. It's taken many twists and turns and evolutions over the last 2 years, but we have finally hit number 100. So we'll go back over our favorite moments of the first 99 episodes. And as always, you can subscribe for free to the PGP. It has its own iTunes feed because, you know what, it's big time at this point in time. Just go on to iTunes and search Permission Granted Podcast. You'll see it. Subscribe for free. It's also available on our normal show iTunes feed and on our website, daoncbs.com. Available in video form on our Facebook page, facebook.com/The DA Show. Mraz, I know this is an exciting day for you, a real benchmark. It marks 75 episodes of the PGP that you actually produced, and now 25 that you really didn't produce or book anything for.
I think that's a totally fair point.
Exciting.
It's very exciting that I could be this poor at everything I do. So it's good.
So we went over number 99 last week, all of our favorite moments and potential guests and things we wanted to run back. So I think the best thing we could do here on the PGP for number 100 is play just snippets, not in any specific order, but snippets from maybe our 10 favorite moments from the first 99 episodes.
Yes, and I think it should be acknowledged before we get into doing all this that we did take listener feedback based off of our conversation on last week's Permission Granted podcast, where several of our esteemed listeners, if you will, say they have liked the way we've gone without guests. So rather than just, horseshoe a very good guest into PGP 100, let's go this route and relive some of the best moments.
I'm a big fan of retrospectives. I'm always a sucker for retrospectives. So, you know what? This is the way to do it. Now, in 101, we might have to go back to a good guest. But
okay,
for 100, this is the right way to do it. And I do like a very special episode because it reminds me of when I used to watch reruns of like 80s sitcoms like Different Strokes or Facts of Life or Mr. Belvedere. And inevitably, if there was a really serious, twisted episode, it'd be like, now time for a very special episode of Different Strokes. This one's about pedophilia.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody remembers that one.
See, I'm going to go opposite. This reminds me of like when you were watching Seinfeld and they got to a landmark episode and it would be, let's relive the best clips that we've seen.
A clip show.
A clip show, if you will.
Episode. So, okay, what do we got? What are we starting with here for our first clip?
Well, we will... Oh, I got my hand on the roulette.
Just off the top of the list.
Off the top of the list, we'll go with Jen Royal when she joined us. This was back on PGP 40.
Jen Royal's become a big deal. She was a longtime sports reporter. She's a Boston native. She moved back to Boston after reporting on the Ravens and the Orioles for MASN for a number of years. I became good friends with her when I worked up in Boston, and she made a transition into becoming a chef and a TV celebrity, like a reality celeb.
Which is insane, the whole twist. And she actually, on this podcast, had discussed how she went from basically being at every baseball game every year, depending on what team she'd covered, to the point where she doesn't even like going to baseball games anymore. She was so done with that lifestyle.
Yeah, and then she was on one of the competitive cooking shows on NBC, I believe. I forget what the name of it was.
It wasn't Celebrity Chef or something familiar like that.
Well, she's not a celebrity necessarily. So
I don't even know if that's a show, but I feel like
it's probably not. But it's not Chopped. It's one of those. So you think you can cook one of these types of shows. But she got huge national recognition out of it. Now I see her. She's part of like advertisements nationwide, advertisements for Miller, I believe. So she's doing big things. Love her to death, and she pulls no punches. She has a very salty, potty Boston mouth, and she was describing to us what her Instagram feed looked like.
You're talking about my death row meal? Is this my death row meal?
Yes. I want to know Jen Royal's death row meal.
Oh, my God. It would be a meatball pizza with extra cheese, a side of a filet,
Okay.
rare,
Uh-huh.
and some lobster mac and cheese. Yeah. Has anybody vomited and shit themselves before the electric chair?
That probably happens during the electric chair. Well, you're still active on social media, so I encourage all of our listeners to check out Jen at Jen_Royal. That's at Jen_Royal. And you're active and you're tweeting up a storm, and everybody can come see you at your restaurant.
Yeah, and there's lots of boobs on my on my Twitter account. Boobs for days. Boobs, boobs, boobs. Boobies, boobies, boobies. What's better than boobs? Nothing.
Jen Royal, never want to pull a punch.
Whoa, that was raw. I like anytime. Let's just talk as men here for a sec. A woman could yell boobs, 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 boobies, boobies, boobies. How are you not all in on listening to that?
Got to be all in, and I'm sure there were many scurrying to her Twitter feed at that point.
I know I did for quite a long time.
And what'd you think about her death row meal? I love the meatball pizza call.
You know what I loved about it?
I love meatball pizza.
Kind of like a boxing match where she kind of loops you in, she's throwing the punches, whatever, and then she lays the right hook at the end with the lobster mac and cheese, which just finishes the game right there, and you're like, okay, you win.
Lobster mac and cheese, delicious. Meatball pizza, delicious. I think my death row meal might not need a side of steak in it if I'm eating all of that other
You're
stuff.
going down, though, right? You're going down. You might as well break out all the protein you can.
Yeah, not a lot of veggies and fruits in Jen Royal's death row chair.
Would you really put veggies and fruits in your death row meal?
I mean, I might mix in maybe a veggie just so I can get my next piece of steak down or whatever.
Just to break up the taste?
Yeah. I love Jen Royal. That was a lot of fun. All right, what do we got up next?
This one, honestly, we probably should have started with, was the first ever Permission Granted podcast, which we have to thank Pat O'Brien as our guest, because we had waited a couple weeks to try to find a guest like this to really help us get this thing off the ground. And without Pat O'Brien, who knows when this thing would have started. We may only be on PGP 99 by now. Maybe
even less, maybe even fewer. Yeah, Pat O'Brien had a long, illustrious career as a sportscaster in the 80s and 90s, early 90s. And then he moved over to Entertainment Tonight, I think it was. It was one of the entertainment shows, then became a Hollywood Access type guy for years. Well, he was an alcoholic, is an alcoholic, battled alcoholism throughout his career, and he wrote this tell-all book about it and kind of opened up about all of this stuff. And so we talked to him about it, and he was very honest and very open, and he also, in the book and on the air with us, trashed entertainment television, which I respect because I think entertainment television is trash.
Garbage.
Total garbage. So this was very interesting because a guy that was in the belly of the beast went back and bit the hand that had fed him and paid him for a long time.
Harsh isn't the word. I mean, I was very harsh with Linda Bell Blue, my executive producer, because there was no worse person to work for. I was pretty harsh with I forget her name. She's so Sean Robinson. And those things are all documented. The other stuff was fun. Nancy O'Dell. I love Nancy O'Dell, and everything that I wrote about her was stuff that she and I laughed about. Why did I put it in the book? You know what? I put everything else in. I just figured people should know what some of these people were like to work with. And the funny thing about it is that a couple of them have called me and said, "Why'd you do that?" And I say, "Listen, we were in the business of destroying people's lives. How does it feel?" I mean,
and most people hate when that table's turned on them in the broadcasting industry.
And I'm not destroying anybody's life, but we would put out rumors and just ruining people's days by saying stuff that wasn't true. And my stuff is true. So once it turns the table on you, it's a little different.
We were in the business of destroying people's lives. What an interesting way to categorize entertainment television.
Yeah, and it's still going on. I mean, 100 PGPs later, after Pat O'Brien revealed that, if you ever watch entertainment television, this is what still goes on. It's amazing.
Are they still destroying people's lives, though, or are they just, it's all like PR and glad handing and what movie is coming out and all that?
No, I think there's still plenty of, a perfect example. I like Real Housewives of New Jersey.
Uh-huh.
Okay? I readily admit this.
Mm-hmm.
Teresa just recently got out of prison, and this new season started or whatever. When she got out of prison, and there's a scene in the show, and I remember this when she first got out of prison because I was a whore for this stuff. I wanted to see what was going on. They basically had two paparazzi trucks, and who is she really? Following her and basically swerving off the road to try to make sure they got whatever picture they could of her to get over. And her life's in danger where all she wants to do is just go see her damn kids after she's been in prison for a year. And that's just one example of what these people are doing. And then he puts these pictures up and everything like this. It's a disgrace. Can you let celebrities just live their lives?
Well, but isn't that part of the deal you make with the devil of being that big of a celebrity?
See, all right, is that how you feel? If you make enough money, you're open to whatever?
Well, I don't think that paparazzi should put their lives in harm's way. Like Princess Diana didn't deserve to die over this. But I mean, to act like, can we just let celebrities live their lives? I mean, isn't that the whole bit that people love to know about celebrity lives, and so they just keep getting spoon-fed that?
Listen, if you're going to hide out in the bushes and take pictures of somebody, eating a meal with whoever, in Los Angeles, fine, so be it. But do we have to be tracking people down on the road and waiting outside their homes? I mean, literally waiting at the base of their homes?
I don't know. I don't get it.
I think that crosses a line to me. If they're out in public, you're in public, fair game. You know what I mean? As I said, you're eating a meal, somebody just take a picture of you, that's it. You're out. But
you could say you're in public when you leave a correctional facility or police.
But I think driving on the road is one thing. And again, to add to this, they're outside our home, and this happens all the time where you see people's pictures. Oh look, they're by their own pool. Like how shady is that you're within the neighborhood just trying to scour these people's homes?
Yeah, but isn't it shady that we want that? I mean, I don't. I
agree. I agree that people that consume it. My wife's guilty of this. My wife can't get enough of this, and I tell her all the time, "What are you doing?" I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't have any interest in celebrities' lives. I don't understand Us Weekly. I don't understand the celebrity tabloid culture. I don't understand the
the paparazzi that's here for us when we leave here at 10 p.m. Eastern is unbelievable.
That I get. That I understand. All right, so what's clip number 3 here, Mraz?
Okay, somebody who's really, I think their star has risen even more since they last appeared on the Permission Granted podcast, and that was on PGP 47, so we're talking about over a year ago, was Christine Leahy.
Oh, no doubt. She's become a total superstar.
Total superstar.
This was when she had just started American Ninja Warrior. She had just began, I believe, the first season that she was hosting American Ninja Warrior on NBC. And she had just gotten that network gig. She had been doing sports stuff up until then on KTLA out in Los Angeles. And then she did American Ninja Warrior. After that launched her into being Colin Cowherd's sidekick. And now American Ninja Warrior's taken off. She's doing red carpet stuff all over the place. She's doing boxing, sideline reporting. She's done so much on a huge scale since then. That's been the last calendar year. And I know Leahy as well because she and I worked together up in Boston when she was at Fox 25 up there. So I've known Christine for a couple of years now. So we caught up with her as her star was kind of starting to burgeon on the national stage. And it's so funny that because she's in L.A. and now she's on network TV, she gets some interesting perks. I'll say that.
I've met the game. I've actually kind of become friends with the game, which is probably like the coolest thing I can say.
That's a kind of a mind-blowing sentence to utter.
I know, but it makes me so happy. You have no idea. So meeting those people, so I texted the game, and I was like, hey, what did you think about Kendrick's diss track?
Whoa.
And he wrote back. I know, right? And he wrote back. He was like, if anybody comes back with a rebuttal, they're awful, because that guy, every word that he said was right. He's a great rapper. He's the next big thing.
Wow. How about that? You texting the game about diss tracks is essentially, as you said, that's the top of the mountain right there, Christine.
It really is. Like, I mean, I think I've interviewed Tom Brady, I've interviewed Kobe Bryant, but, texting the game really, that was the highlight of my life.
Christine is awesome. She's got an encyclopedic knowledge of modern hip hop, so she's awesome. But what do you think you save the game cell number as in your phone? Is it the game or just game rapper?
I think the game parentheses rapper. This way you don't assume the game could be a bar. The game could be an actual game, a maker of a game.
Video game?
There could be, it's almost like when you save, a Jacob. Like I always have to save Jacob, in parentheses, Chicken Challenge.
Okay, good.
You know what I mean?
So Jacob Wilkins is not in your phone. It says Jacob Chicken Challenge.
Chicken Challenge, right.
Wow.
So, and you have to save people this way. Mike Samter, I've known forever. Samter, work.
Oh,
you know what I
interesting.
mean? Something like
So
that.
you don't have enough ability to remember people's last names?
Well, I think it also helps in this day and age with the smartphones. Like I like searching. Like whenever I book a guest, I will search the letters NFL, and anybody I've put their name /NFL comes up, and I know those are NFL guests.
So
if I need
keywords are good for you.
Keywords are good.
Okay.
Work like that. So if she's going to search, how many rappers do I have on my phone? Rapper. Okay, here's the game. Rapper.
Yeah.
I think that's how you would have to go with the phone.
Could you just imagine having like a text thread and it says the game up top?
Oh.
And it's actually the game.
I'd just be texting like random lyrics, trying to act real casual.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Pretty amazing. Yeah.
Something tells me she's up to her rapper total in the phone book since the last year.
She knows all the celebs now.
Maybe somebody with a hit in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, she does red carpet stuff for networks, and she's a superstar. So that was pretty cool. All right, who's next?
We will go with Tom Arnold. It's pretty amazing to think that we had Tom Arnold on the Permission Granted
I'm
podcast.
telling you. I mean, we used to really roll out the hits like the game. So Tom Arnold, we had on the show, he was doing a stand-up act. He was doing a tour. He's promoting the tour. And maybe he had a book, too?
He could have. I got to be honest. Tom Arnold, this was Permission Granted Podcast 5. I didn't even book Tom Arnold. I have to give Kenny Brock credit. This was a Kenny Brock booking.
We had Pat O'Brien and Tom Arnold in the first 5 episodes.
It was tremendous. I'm sure we had Adam Kaufman twice in the first 5 as well.
So Tom Arnold was talking about hecklers and negative attention on social media and told a great story about actually hunting down a guy that had blogged criticism of him.
You know, there was a kid that had a website, Tom Arnold's the Devil. Well, I tracked that guy down. And
You did?
And so I confronted him. Like,
Really?
But here's the sad part. His mother wrote, he was living in her basement, and, like, he had no friends until he had this website called Tom Arnold is the Devil. And now he's got, like, 30 friends, and they communicate all the time and they have fun with this. And I felt so terrible that I was like, buddy, just do it.
Have at it.
Yeah, because I think when you go, oh, we're all equal, I'm going to confront this person man to man. Well, you find out that, maybe they didn't mean it that way, or maybe they've got some kind of a sad situation. And you know what? We're so blessed with the lives that we have that I don't think we want to confront that. And the people that are smart just move on.
So we always make this joke about bloggers sitting in their mother's basement.
Yeah,
but
it's
in
true.
this case, it actually literally was true. This was a guy living in his mother's basement.
I'd say it's about 90% true. That's what I think.
Isn't that kind of amazing? I mean, we always say that, but I don't assume anybody really does live in their mother's basement. I'm sure there are people that do, but I never assume that that's a literal thing that happens. That's
right. You'd still picture people in their own loft apartment with their laptop blogging away, not like some dark dungeon down there.
Especially mom's basement,
where she's yelling that she has meatloaf ready for you.
So that's not a good look for that guy. Number 2, Tom Arnold hunted one of his critical bloggers down. Amazing.
It's amazing, but you would think if you're Tom Arnold, you let it roll off your back,
Totally.
wouldn't you?
I mean,
Do you have to actually? And by the way, that means Tom Arnold's Googling his name and searching for this stuff in reality.
Of course.
Going
to like the blog's IP address and finding out.
Could you imagine getting that I mean, there has to be a million people that hate you, a million people that hate me. Listen, right?
I mean, do we go after Vero Beach Mike Finn's fan?
Oh, why even give him the time of day on the podcast?
He'd be like our number 1 hater.
He would. Well, now his newest beef I've noticed because he roasts me in is with Ken Carmen. So he fights with everybody apparently. I mean, come on, get a life.
I muted him, so I don't even know what he says anymore, and I'm sure he just keeps firing at me.
It doesn't matter.
Could you imagine hunting him down, like finding his?
You know what? Now I think I might be with Tom Arnold. Kind of fun. Kind of fun.
And then it's great that he actually helped this blogger's life out. Now that they have some type of community.
All's well that ends well, right?
That's right. Tom Arnold here on the PGP. What else we got?
Exactly 50 podcasts ago, we had Cut It Out. Dave Coulier.
Yeah.
Promoting what was about to be Fuller House.
Yes, that's right.
When that came out on Netflix, which, by the way, not good reviews since we had him on.
Will they get a second series? Second season?
I haven't read up enough on it because it's weird. With Netflix, like they'll just roll them all out and they're all out at once. So it's not like you're waiting like by network television for it to happen. So they probably do because they probably found their like kind of younger audience that maybe, but there's a lot of people, and this has become like a thing, like with Ghostbusters out currently right now, where people hold on to things from their childhood and they want to relive those moments. So when Fuller House came on, everybody's like, oh man, I loved Full House, like this adult nation that when they were younger, and quite a few of them, if you read Twitter when it came out, boy, were they disappointed it didn't hold the test of time.
Yeah, they were not happy. But Dave Coulier is such an interesting guy because not only was he Uncle Joey Gladstone in Full House, but he dated Alanis Morissette, and the song that she sung, You Ought to Know, the urban legend is that it was about Dave Coulier. Could you imagine a scorned ex-lover singing angry songs about Dave Coulier? So I asked him about it.
Hey, are you sick of answering questions about the Alanis Morissette song You Ought to Know? Because I've read quotes about this. You're like, dude, that's not necessarily even about me.
Well, it happened a long time ago. I dated Alanis in 1992, so I mean this is a really old story, and you know, people say, well, why was she so angry? And you know, I never got that about her. You know, she was one of the most happy, funny, pleasant, smart women, you know, that I've ever met, and people, oh man, she was really angry. I was like, well, I never got that. She couldn't have been a happier person.
Well, if you listen to Jagged Little Pill front to back on the album, one of the greatest albums of all time, doesn't seem like a happy person.
No, not a happy person at all. Number one, I was hoping to get a little bit more fireworks out of Joey Gladstone right there, Dave Coulier.
He pulled back a little bit.
But number two, it seems very weird to describe Alanis Morissette as one of the happiest people you've ever met because, yeah, she's had multiple songs that are very bitter and angry. And
she was kind of like a much bitter, angrier version of Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift ever existed. And it's kind of weird to look at it now because she wasn't as poppy, but she was, Alanis Morissette for those couple years was very popular. Like, remember?
Hugely popular.
Hits all over.
But I wouldn't have said Taylor Swift because she wasn't, like, aiming towards tweens.
No, but I'm talking about Taylor Swift where, you know, she kind of not as angry but throws a lot of, like, heat in songs that, like, ex-boyfriends and stuff like that.
Right.
Alanis Morissette, kind of a similar genre, if you will.
Always about ex-relationships.
Right, exactly.
Always about boy trouble. Always about, the drama. Yeah, you're right. So I was just hoping we were going to get something more out of Dave Coulier on that answer. But I will say that I'm proud that the Permission Granted podcast included Dave Coulier being asked about Alanis Morissette.
Always have that on the Rolodex. Always.
That's just a famous moment here in PGP history. All right, Mraz, how about number 6? What do we got here on the next spot on our list?
I would say this might have been the last time we had a guest. I should have double-checked this, but this was something that...
Great moment in history, our last guest.
Right. This was something that sparked a ton of reaction, perhaps the most reaction on the show itself of any of our Permission Granted podcast guests. Do you want to take a guess on that?
The most reaction...
on the show.
From the PGP to the show. I don't know.
Shane from Chipotle Tweets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is great. So I went on my anti-Chipotle jihad. I had been a Chipotle fan for approximately a decade, and they kept telling me how healthy it was. Then they got most of the country sick with a norovirus and E. coli.
Most of the country, 7 people out of the billion that live in America?
I believe it was 13 states.
13 states,
but
it
was 13
define sick. I mean, a hangnail from a little corn doesn't hurt.
I don't think anybody gets hangnails from viruses. So then I went on my jihad, and Mraz got all squirrely because he was upset that maybe I was pushing Chipotle farther into the gutter, and that maybe I would be dissuading our listeners from going to Chipotle, and that this could potentially rip Chipotle away from his meaty fingers. And so we had... Shane, the Twitter spokesman for Chipotle on the PGP, and Mraz described just what a life-changing experience going to Chipotle was.
Yeah, I mean, Shane, ever since college, I chose my college based on a Chipotle being nearby, and that's always been the thing that got me by, whether it's a week of work or anywhere I've been in my life, I've had a Chipotle close by. And I have figured out in my life that it would probably be easier for me to find another wife, another woman, than it would be to find another burrito to enjoy other than that of Chipotle. I went to Mexico once, and I couldn't wait to get home and have Chipotle because the food stunk in Mexico. I cannot live without it, so I need to be guaranteed that Chipotle will be around forever because, quite frankly, I will die without it. And I've mentioned this on the air. That's my favorite place to eat. I can't lose Chipotle. It would be like losing, my grandmother.
But
I cannot survive life moments. Like anytime there's hardship, Chipotle is where I turn.
Wow.
And I just need to ensure that will always be there for me because I cannot survive if Chipotle does not survive.
I'm a big fan of that metaphor, by the way. I'll tell you what. Mraz is not he's not alone.
Oh.
That is very indicative of our core customer. There's in fact, being able to count on the flavor and the quality that you're going to get.
Oh yeah.
That's a tremendous answer from
Yeah,
Shane.
yeah. You could always count on the quality of Chipotle.
You can. And as he said, there were weddings in that interview, weddings that booked Chipotle as their caterer.
Well, that's the whole point. You can't count on their quality. That's why they went in the tank. That's why it was a national scandal.
Somebody sabotaged. Them themselves were not to blame.
I just love the idea that you're like, I'll die unless I have a Chipotle burrito. And Shane goes, yeah, there's a lot of people that feel that way. No, there's not. No. Most people really like Chipotle, but know that they would not pass away without it.
I don't know. Chipotle's got that cult following. I'm not alone.
Let me tell you, another round of flyers from Chipotle to my apartment building. Buy one, get one. I'm telling you, they're
pushing it.
The stock must be dropping again.
I don't think it's dropping. Every time I go, there's more and more people in there.
Yeah, crawling back
one by one. This chorizo they've added is just added fire to this
Have you
place.
had it?
No, because I'm not a big chorizo guy to begin with.
Okay.
I respect that people love it, and I'm all for trying new things, but I'll stick with what I like.
Okay, what's number 7?
Okay, we're going to, this is where things get interesting. We're only going to have one guest of the next 4 moments, if you will. We're going to skip the guest for now. We're going to go to Steve-O Moralia. The week that I was away last year, before Joe D joined the show, he had to produce the entire week. James Ward was also away.
Planet Steve-O.
And you, in discussing with Steve-O his faults for the week, instead of him putting up a fight and defending himself, he was so quick to throw in the towel on himself that it was quite frankly pathetic, and it was noted on the Permission Granted podcast.
Yeah, Mraz was out, so Steve-O popped into the executive producer chair before Jolt and Joe D had joined us. And you got to love Steve-O because he is so accepting of his flaws and his faults. If you just point him out, he's like, yeah, no, you're right. Like, I'm terrible at that. So you got to love anybody that doesn't put up a fight. At the same time, I was so frustrated because the show had spiraled into the toilet by Wednesday. You're so stressed.
I am. I want this to go well. I want to get an A. Damn it, I want an A.
The effort's been there.
I hope so. I mean, see, I've gotten 1,000 more gray hairs since I started working on
the effort's been there. It's just that you let a lot of things drop between the cracks.
No.
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, I don't.
You're so adamant to fight that point, and then within 5 seconds, you're like, well, yeah, no, that's a good point.
Well, you brought up to me right before we started the podcast that I didn't tweet, that I don't tweet out the guests.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. That week. Monday was fine. We tightened up a few things. Tuesday started to get a little bit more.
He had Rick Barry on the plane to Africa calling in. That was his big guest.
It was fraying at the edges. By Wednesday, he was falling apart. By Thursday and Friday, we were just punting.
Friday, I was one of the 2 guests on vacation.
Mraz was booked as a guest to talk about the 2 sock trip when you had a little poopy pants and you on your drive from Port St. Lucie to Orlando, and you needed to pull over not once but twice and use your sock.
Yes, I did use both socks.
Both socks.
Thankfully, I have 2.
Well, I miss Planet Steve-O in some ways. He was always good for a laugh. At the same time, the show is wildly more efficient with Joe D there.
100%. Joe's a stickler for the details. Steve was not.
No, not at all. But he always had a good attitude.
That's all.
Always had a great attitude.
No, okay.
No. Okay. All right. What's number 8 here?
Well, we go from Steve-O to the man who ran the Wheels of Steel before Steve-O, Kenny Brock.
The predecessor.
Who very early on, this was Permission Granted Podcast 29, really had a problem with Cowboy fans and the Cowboys and didn't like me stepping in on his rant. And This is 50 seconds, I'll just warn you, of Kenny Brock just being quintessential Kenny Brock. Hungry, angry, is in no mood for anything.
This was as vicious and as savage as he ever was on air to you. Behind the scenes, off the air, Brock would let you have it. On the air, he would poke fun at you. On the air, he would quarrel with you. But it wasn't vicious because obviously we had a dump button and whatnot. Brock from Philadelphia, especially in the overnights, had little sleep, was not eating well, was in a little hot apartment trying to sleep in the middle of the summer.
Was decaying before our eyes.
Was decaying before our eyes. He wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, wasn't living well, didn't have any air conditioning, and it was watching him just kind of self-implode. And on the PGP one day, when you tried to jump into a point, he just annihilated you.
They're the freaking Dallas Cowboys. What do we expect from them? They want all the glitz and the glamour and the fame and everyone to talk about them. This is what you're supposed to freaking do. You're supposed to win. Sorry that you've been mediocre for over a freaking decade, but I'm not going to pat you on the back for going 6-1 when that is what is expected of a team of that, quote unquote caliber and an organization of that caliber. I have zero respect for the Cowboys. Cool, you went to Seattle and won. Seattle looks like they're not the team that they were last year. Okay, you beat the Saints. The Saints suck this year. Who else have you beaten? The Titans suck. The Rams suck. The Texans suck. The Giants suck.
I'm not.
No, shut up.
The Giants were really beat up in that game.
Shut up. The Giants suck.
Have you seen that injury Rolodex?
Shut up.
And that was a one-possession game late.
That's it. Your mic's going off until I'm done with my freaking rant. The Giants freaking suck, and I don't want to hear a second I don't want to hear a second freaking word about it.
Boy, you forget those moments.
Oh, man, that was good. And the whole rant is even better because he's wound up so tight. An Eagles fan that hates the Cowboys. That was the year that the Cowboys actually started out well, went to the playoffs. That was the Des Bryant catch no catch year.
Catch no catch year, right?
And he was just laying into him and shut up, you shut up. I can't. I'm turning off your microphone.
And then drops an F-bomb we have to bleep out.
That week, I believe, was my trip to Kansas City. If I'm not mistaken, I went out to a Chiefs-Rams game because a friend of mine, his wife had battled cancer, and she was being honored at the halftime. So I remember listening to that PGP in the airport and laughing out loud as I was like passing people on the carousel, going, "This is unbelievable. Brock has totally lost his mind."
I remember being in the studio recording with him and being a little scared, actually, because he had this like look in his eyes, this fire in his eyes, where it feels like one of these shows you watch where like somebody's in prison and they're about to snap, and I'm like, oh no, like this man is about to fly off the rails.
Oh man, that's great. All right, number 9.
Okay, well, I don't even know if we could explain this, but we had a porn star on the show.
Oh boy. And
you had to ask the question because it had to be asked. What kind of films does she specialize in? And boy, does she have a specialty.
So this was so wild. Jada Diamond is an adult movie actress, and when we were on the overnights, she used to tweet at us sports takes.
Yeah, about Cleveland specifically, or a lot about LeBron and the Browns and stuff like that.
Specifically Cleveland. We were on in Cleveland, 92.3 The Fan, and Jada Diamond would tweet at both you and I sports takes. Cleveland sports takes, and we were like, this is wild. We've got a porn actress tweeting at us, specifically Cleveland sports takes overnight. So I think I said to you, you know what, maybe we should get her on the show. She seems like she has takes. But we couldn't trust her on the air.
So this was clearly cut out for the Permission Granted podcast.
Right, so we booked her for the PGP. And I have... I'd like to say I never interviewed a porn star before, but I have.
Oh.
In Miami on WQAM.
That makes sense.
There was no rules. There were some things you couldn't say on the air, but in terms of overall content.
Talk about whatever.
They used to send me on remote to strip clubs. I used to do my show from happy hour at a strip club.
How do you focus?
I mean, you can. It was so wild.
Let's break down Zach Thomas.
South Florida is just a haven for gamblers and prostitutes and drug addicts, and it's the Wild West in so many ways. And so QAM used to send me to strip clubs. So we had a Playboy, I guess it's not a porn star, a Playboy model, Nikki Sexton, who then went on to do some rough stuff.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah. And she came in to do she was promoting something. They wanted me to have her on the show. I forget. But anyway, she came in. And so that was the first time I ever had an adult film star on the air. And that was pretty awkward. But I couldn't talk sports with Nikki Sexton. With Jada Diamond, I was like, okay, at least we can get some takes.
She loved Matthew Dellavedova.
She did. But Jada didn't really have a ton of sports takes.
No.
It was mainly about her career, and it turned out that her boyfriend at the time, or currently when we interviewed
her, I don't know,
was from Cleveland. She was from, you guessed it, Florida.
Right.
She moved to Cleveland to be with him. He was from Cleveland. He was a big Browns fan and a big Cavs fan, so she kind of latched on and was listening to us. I don't know what she was doing in the middle of the night listening to us.
I have a few guesses.
Okay. So here is Jada Diamond on the PGP.
I basically shoot top-end movies. So when I'm looking to shoot, the producers already pretty much know that I'm looking for that, and they come right out and they go, "This is what we have to offer. This is what we're shooting. Would you like it? Yes or no?" And I basically tell them I normally don't go out there for less than 4 or 5 scenes. And, of course, the specific price that I'm asking per scene.
Right.
And if you can commit to all that, and then I'm good to go.
Oh, my God. You're, all right. What are the best responses to that?
Okay. So we bleeped it out there, but how did we creatively describe the type of movie she does?
Well, there is an area behind you as a human being that can be discussed as a bit of a crater, if you will.
That's a weird way to describe it.
Like the moon. You know the moon has craters?
Yeah, what? I mean...
I'm trying to work here around the edges. Give me. I didn't hear you blurt out anything.
Like,
put it this way: if you have your starting catcher, as far as if your starting catcher on the field is a private area on your body, and you have a backup catcher that maybe plays a day game after a night game, she shoots a lot with the backup catcher. He gets paid a lot of money.
I don't get that at all.
I'm sure somebody listening will get it.
I don't think that metaphor works. She does stuff with the butt.
All right. I mean, if you want to come right out and say it, I'm a crater backup catcher. I was trying to work with the program here.
The butt. The gluteus maximus.
Yeah, we're not telling you where in the butt, but you can only imagine.
I don't get your metaphor at all with the backup catcher.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to further explain that off the air. I was trying to work on the fly.
Oh, my gosh. It was too graphic, too detailed. That was not good.
I mean, where do we go from there?
Okay, and number 10, what is our final clip?
Speaking of butts, we're doing a lot of butt stuff towards the end here. This is a Permission Granted podcast where anytime we've had Jay Berman on since this podcast, he always references his podcast 51.
What is wrong with us?
What is wrong with us? Myself and Jay Berman have grown to become good friends in the 4 years we've worked here. We work a lot of the same hours, so we've become buddies. But Jay Berman you consider me a pig on the air. Jay Berman is a pig in the newsroom.
Oh, my God. Off the air. He's the biggest pig.
He's the worst newsroom etiquette. And
Belching, gas.
A lot of gas.
Lots of gas.
And
audible.
He'll let the gas fly in the newsroom. And you know what? I actually don't mind. Man's going to make some noises, right?
Okay, man's going to make some noises.
So I've got suckered in and I've passed some gas back his way. Okay. However, Jay Berman decided one day to pass gas over my open container of food I was about to eat for dinner.
He crop dusted your open dinner.
And I found this to be crossing the line of gas, but he felt I should have accepted it. So we got really at each other's throats while Joe D was in there trying to play referee as who was right as far as, we'll just say fart etiquette goes.
Yeah.
So let's fire that away.
One of our favorite, or one of our most infamous moments, I should say, in PGP history.
The give and the take is what rubs me the wrong way.
But that was already a response. You don't get to respond to a response like you did today. That was disgusting. I'm eating.
Well, my question to you is that you prefaced this by suggesting you were in a bad mood and I didn't have the proper fart etiquette. Now you're telling us it was in response to me doing it to you. The fact that
you're not making any sense.
No, you're not understanding any sense.
Okay,
Either
let's go.
you were in a bad mood or you are suggesting now that you have not in the past grabbed my head, shoved it up your butt crack, and farted.
Not shoved it up your butt crack, okay? Number one.
The mood is irrelevant.
It was responsive.
You have lied to the listeners.
I have not lied.
Loyal listeners are now listening to your
shut up.
verbal farts.
Shut up, Jay. Yeah.
Oh, so you cut it off there. So you were kind of pulling a Brock. I thought you were going to also include at the end of
when he walks off the podcast?
He walks off, and then he also, doesn't he drop a fart?
Yeah, at the end, as he's about to leave, he farts out loud into the microphone, leaving somebody futurely to probably get pink eye.
Let's add that in right here. Because that moment is so good, and it's the walk-off, and that's how we should end the PGP 100, with the walk-off.
Okay, so without further ado, thank you for listening to the Permission Granted Podcast 100, and here is how Jay Berman walked off PGP 51.
You removed my head and made the surprise face like you can't believe that wasn't more than just...
Oh, my God, Jay! Oh, my God, you farted right here as we're having this discussion. You lose right there.
I never
That's
lose.
a walk-off.
You're right. Mic dropped.
It stinks.
Game over.
Oh.
Go change your underwear.
You
My
know what?
goodness.
There it is, the way to finally end the 100th Permission Granted podcast. Thanks for everybody for making this a popular podcast. Because of it, we had to post it on its own iTunes feed, which is awesome. Has its own cool graphic now. The graphics department wanted to whip something up, and it's been great. So keep listening, keep downloading. Completely free on iTunes. Every single week we release it. It's usually a Tuesday or a Wednesday morning when it's released. And enjoy it. We'll do it again next week. 101 is coming your way. Hopefully the next 100 episodes are as entertaining as the first 100.